Hello, Web Design 101 class. Spring, what is this, 2015? That is the year. Yep. This is Happy, or Andrea, your instructor for the Web Design class. It was great teaching you guys the other night. I had fun. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. So here's the first of our video series. This is for the HTML that we did. Again, everything that we used was from the W3C schools. I'm going to bring that inside of the picture. So W3C schools, and then we went to learn HTML. And the first area we're going to focus on is the HTML introduction. Again, I do these recordings from home, and I have a 10-year-old animated son. So if you hear any sounds from him, that's what it is. He just adds to the whole animation, and it just becomes fun. Anyway, let's get started. So the first chapter that we went through was what is HTML, and we talked about HTML is a markup language for describing web documents. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a markup language that is just made up of a set of markup tags. HTML documents are described by those HTML tags, and each HTML tag describes a different document content. Okay, so the first thing when you're doing an HTML document is, because we're going to be working specifically with HTML5, we're going to be working with the Doctype.html. The way that we write that is we type our left bracket, of course, our exclamation mark, and then remember this, it doesn't matter as far as the case. HTML5 allows uppercase or lowercase. However, because there's so many rules that actually require lowercase, and the older browsers aren't able to read uppercase in some instances, and you never know who your client is and what they're viewing it on or what their experience is going to be. So it's probably a better bet, and W3C recommends it, but I always recommend myself is staying with lowercase, and this way you can ensure that it's going to work across the board. Alright, so we have our pound sign, and then Doctype, and HTML, and then our right bracket. Now, this tag, or this we call element here, is a Doctype Declaration, and it defines the document to be HTML, and the version for this one is HTML5. Now, it is not opening our HTML tag. It's a tag that is needed to tell the browser, hey, this person is going to be using HTML5. Okay, so our next tag we're going to do is we're going to tell it, hey, but this is an HTML document. Okay, so we put in our brackets, and we're saying, hey, this is an HTML document. Now, whenever we have an open, we must have a close. And again, we talked about this in class. To signify the close is the left bracket and the slash. So the only difference between the open document, the open tag and the closing tag is that slash. Alright, I'm going to return a couple of times because I like to have space in between that. So now we've said, okay, this is an HTML document. So now all of this information in between here is our actual document. Okay, it's not the part that's viewed. We haven't created anything that's viewed on the browser yet, but it is an HTML document. Alright, next thing that we want to create is our head section. Okay, so here's our open head tag. Again, whenever we have an open, it's always best to go ahead and type our close. So here's our close head tag. Okay. In our heading, the text between the head area, this provides information about the document for the browser. Okay. So the head area is not displayed in the screen at all. What the head area does is tell the browser, hey, there may be metadata in here, or hey, there may be keywords in here, or hey, they may have a title. Speaking of title, like that segue, I'm going to tab, and then we're going to create our title tag. Okay, whenever there's an open. Title tags, because they're usually one lines, I'll keep them on one line. So I'll go ahead and close this title tag. Inside the title tag, we'll just name this, I'll just name it Recap. Class Recap 1. Alright, and I know you guys can't see the whole thing. I made this big so that you guys could see it. Last class when I was doing recordings, we were having issues as far as the resolution and you guys being able to see it, because YouTube truncates this so small that it's barely, you're barely able to figure everything out. All right, so we named our head and our title, and the title area shows up in that little tab area of your HTML document. So it is very important to make a title, because if you don't, it'll just be untitled and that looks unprofessional. Okay, so now we have our head section. Again, the head section is not seen in the browser. We haven't created an area for the head section to be seen. And the title again provides the title for the document. So the next section that we're going to, or next element, oh yeah, well, we're going to break this down later, but I like to break it down now. So remember, also an element is the open tag and the close tag. That's your element, okay, and everything in between. All right, so next we're going to do our body tag. Now, the body we talked about, the body is where everything that you want viewed inside that browser is going to go inside of this body tag. All right, so we have our open, our close. The body tag, I like to put closer to the HTML, and I give them a couple of spaces down. All right, one thing we haven't done yet, but we will. All right, so the body page, or sorry, the body elements, again, just describes the visible page content. So everything that's going to be visible inside of your document. All right, so let's go ahead and give this an H1 tag. Remember, H1 tag is a heading tag. The heading tags go from H1 to H6, but we'll visit that again. Whenever I have it open, I just get into the habit because it's too easy to forget. So I'm going to close it. So now for our H1 tag, I'm going to type Web Design 101 Spring 2015 recap. All right. So I have my H1 in there, and let's just go ahead and give this some paragraph. Our P tag. Let's go ahead and close the P tag. And we'll say, hello, class. Here is a recap from our first night. Oops, we weren't there at night. That's so crazy. From our first day of class. All right, so I'm gonna go back over here. Go down here. So now we have the chapter 1, which is just our HTML introduction. One thing that we didn't do, which I mentioned earlier, I didn't mention doing it. I said there's something that we haven't done yet, which is to save this so we can view it, so we can see what's going on. So I'm just going to go ahead and file. I'm going to save as. I'm going to save it on my desktop. I'm going to name this one Web Class 1 Recap. Remember I talked about that camel casing? So if I stay true in camel casing, then it will be every other word will be capital letter. So Web Class 1 Recap.html. I'm going to save this onto the desktop for now, just so that I can easily locate it. Making sure that .html is behind there. And also with HTML, it can be HTML or .html. They'll both do the same thing. I just stick with .html for me. All right, I'm going to choose Save. Once I save it, notice my color comes in, okay, of my website. And then over here on my desktop, which you can't see, I have my recap. But I'm going to go ahead and let's bring this into view so you guys can see it. All right, so far here's what we've done. We have our title, right? So that's where the title is going in, inside of our tab area if you're on Google Chrome. Our H1, and we have our paragraph information. Look, and I spelled everything correctly. Love that. Gotta love that. Okay, so this is good. I'm going to move this over here out of the way. But that's what we have created so far in this video. Let me see if there's anything else that I want to make sure that I don't forget to tell you about. the text between the H1 describes the heading. The text between the paragraph describes the paragraph. Using a description, or using this description, the web browser can display a document with a heading and a paragraph, as we saw when we looked at ours. The next thing that we want to talk about are HTML tags. I kind of talked about it a little bit, but HTML tags are keywords, tag names, which are tag names surrounded by brackets. Okay, so these are HTML tags. Remember, that's the HTML open tag for head, and that's the close tag for head. The first tag, again, is the start tag. The last tag is the end tag. The only difference between the start and the end is that slash. The start tag is often called the opening tag, as I always call it, and the end tag is often called the closing tag, as I always call it. Web browsers, such as Firefox, Chrome, Safari, there are more. There's Opera and things like that. Their job is to read HTML documents and display them. The browser does not display the HTML tags, but it uses them to determine how to mark up the document or how to display the document. The HTML page structure are boxes. We talked about this in class, and that's really all it is. They're boxes. It has one job. So if we look at this, it has one job. It has everything that we just typed is a box. So the whole HTML is one box, right? Nested inside of there, as you see when we typed ours. So here's the HTML. So this would be the outer box, right? All of that would be this box right here. And then we have the head, which is nested inside, and the title nested inside of the head. So the way we show that is we have the head, right? And then we didn't close the head until after the title. So that makes room for the title to be nested inside of the head area. Okay? So that's what this for my visual learners, that's what this box is showing right here. It's showing the outside of head, and the title is nested inside of it. Okay, and then we have our body. So our body is also a box, and each element that we put inside of that box is also its own box, H1, P, and P, and another paragraph tag. Okay, so this is how HTML looks. This is how it works. Its job is to stack boxes, and every element that we create is a box, and that's how it works for now. Later on, we'll see that there are things that interrupt the boxes, but for now, let's stick with the cleanness of that everything just comes in, and it comes in boxes, and it stacks boxes. And again, the only area that is displayed in the browser is anything that's inside of the body tag. All right. So more about the Doctype Declaration. Since it talks about it, the Doctype Declaration helps the browser display the web page correctly. There are different document types on the web. To display the document correctly, the browser must know both type and the version. So the Doctype Declaration is not case sensitive, as I said before. However, since there are things that are case sensitive, it is best to use lowercase. The doctype that we're using is that exclamation mark with doctype and then the space HTML. That's because we're using HTML5. But there are doctypes for 4 and there are doctypes for 1.0, which needs additional information. I'll show you what that looks like right here. Okay, this is the one that we're using. It's pretty simple and basic. But if you were using 4.01, then you would have some additional information to put in there. And if you were using XML 1.0, you'd have additional information to put in there. Okay, and then there's some more information about the HTML versions. When HTML came out, 1991. Then we have HTML 2.0, which is 1995. 3.2, which is 97, 4.01, which is 99, XHTML, which is 2000, and HTML5, which is 2014. And that's when that one was released. And that's the version that we're working in. Okay, so for now, we have completed Chapter 1. This is the video for Chapter 1. This is our website that we completed. We are awesome, and that's just too cool. All right, so I'll see you in a few minutes where we go into our next video or the next chapter. Next chapter, we'll be talking about HTML editors And, well, actually, you know what? Instead of spending time in another chapter, we can do this right now. All right, we talked about the HTML editor, Notepad, and TextEdit. Notepad++ is better if you're on a PC. TextEdit is good, but Text Wrangler is better if you're on a Mac. And these are both free programs, and the reason I say that they're better is because they'll give you the color codes so that you'll be able to look and see, oh, I did this one wrong, or oh, I must have forgotten something because this color is the wrong color, or something like that. So that's why I recommend those. And then there are other editors like Dreamweaver, which we will go into later on in the course. Not yet, but later on we will. But for learning HTML, it is best to do Notepad++ or Text Wrangler or Notepad or TextEdit. The simple editors are the best way to learn HTML. It really is. I started getting lazy when I started going into using Dreamweaver as my editor. And then I like completely took it off at one point and only used Notepad++ because I was on a PC. Blah. But that's how I got so proficient in writing code. You guys already know how to do this with opening Notepad, but if you don't, it has information in here letting you know how to open Notepad and how to write the HTML code, how to save the HTML file, and how to view it in your browser. Really, all you do to view it in your browser is once you save it, you can just click on that HTML file and it'll open up in the browser by default. All right, so that being said, that was chapter 2 in a nutshell. When we come back, we'll talk about, let me see. Yeah, when we come back, we'll talk about HTML basics with HTML documents, more on the headings, more on the paragraphs, links, images, and things such as that. So I'll see you in a few moments. Until then, ta-ta.